The Exile. The sky above Earth burned with violet fire as the void-born collective's armada positioned itself in perfect geometric formation. Their ships, massive crystalline structures that defied conventional physics, had arrived 3 days earlier with an ultimatum. Humanity would leave the solar system or be erased from existence. Admiral Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the UES Endurance, the largest of humanity's remaining vessels. Her dark eyes reflected the tactical displays showing Earth's defense systems crumbling under the Voidborn's technological superiority. Centuries of human military advancement had been rendered obsolete in mere hours. Final evacuation transports are docking now, Admiral, reported Commander Jackson, his voice steady despite the chaos. We'll reach capacity in 20 minutes. Elena nodded. And the arcs? The genetic repositories are secure. Cultural archives at 98% transfer. The plan had never been to win this war. The moment the Voidborn arrived, humanity's strategic minds had pivoted to preservation rather than victory. 37 massive ships, each carrying hundreds of thousands of people in stasis, would carry the remnants of human civilization into the unknown. They're mobilizing their second-wave weapons platforms, said Dr. Sanjay Mehta, the fleet's chief scientist. The atmospheric processors will begin their work within the hour. Elena's jaw tightened. The Voidborn weren't just conquering Earth, they were transforming it into something utterly alien, reshaping its fundamental composition to suit their incomprehensible needs. Send the signal, she ordered. All ships prepare for simultaneous jump. The evacuation had been more orderly than anyone could have hoped, perhaps because humanity had always known, on some level, that the stars held both promise and peril. The evacuation protocols had existed for decades, regularly updated and refined. No one had truly expected to use them. As the fleet accelerated away from Earth, engaging their experimental full drives, Elena caught her final glimpse of the blue planet. Patches of violet energy had begun to spread across the continents like bruises on skin. Jump successful, Jackson announced after the disorienting shift ended. All ships accounted for. The fleet had emerged in uncharted space, far beyond any mapped stellar body. Their destination hadn't been chosen for its resources or habitability, but simply for its distance from known space, particularly from the expanding territory of the Voidborn Collective. Begin long-range scans, Elena ordered. Deploy survey drones. I want to know everything about this region before we commit to any course of action. The first months of Exile passed in a blur of logistics and adaptation. Stasis chambers were systematically deactivated, bringing humans back to consciousness in manageable numbers. Hydroponic systems, designed to feed millions during a journey that might span generations, functioned better than expected. It was during the 4th month that Dr. Mehta discovered the anomaly. We're calling it the resonance, he explained to Elena and the other ship captains. His holographic display showed swirling patterns of energy unlike anything in their scientific records. It permeates this entire region of space. It's not radiation, not dark energy, not anything we've cataloged before. Elena studied the patterns. Is it dangerous? Not directly, Sanjay replied. But it's affecting our technology in subtle ways. The quantum processors are operating at 127% efficiency. The biosynth materials in our medical facilities are showing accelerated regenerative properties. Captain Linway of the UES Pioneer leaned forward. Can we use it? The question hung in the air. Humanity had always excelled at adaptation, at taking the unexpected and turning it to advantage. The first breakthrough came when a research team led by Dr. Isabella Torres discovered that the resonance responded to conscious thought. It began with small anomalies, laboratory equipment rearranging itself overnight, data patterns shifting to more elegant configurations without programmer input. It's like the fabric of reality here is permeable, Dr. Torres explained, malleable in ways that defy our understanding of physics. By the 6th month, they had encountered the crystalline entities, vast geometric structures floating through the resonance fields. Initially mistaken for asteroid formations, they revealed complex energy patterns suggestive of consciousness. Valina remembered the first communication attempt. Dr. Torres had developed what she called a nexus interface, a neural network designed to translate human thought patterns into energy fluctuations within the resonance. "We are the displaced," Torres had projected, seeking refuge. The response came not as words but as sensations: curiosity, welcome, recognition. The crystalline entities didn't think in language but in concepts, in possibilities, in potential futures branching into infinity. They don't just exist in this reality. Torres later explained to the Leadership Council. They perceive all possible versions simultaneously. To them, time and space are suggestions, not absolutes. The implications were staggering. Through the crystalline entities and the Nexus technology, humanity began to learn how to manipulate the resonance. The first human outpost, named Novaterra, took shape not through conventional construction, but through reality manipulation. Matter coalescing according to human design, guided by the principles learned from the crystalline entities. 17-year-old Maya Chen became the first human to fully neural link with the resonance network. Her consciousness expanded beyond her physical form, perceiving the underlying patterns of reality itself. "It's not alien," she told Dr. Torres after the connection was severed. "It feels like coming home, like we were meant to find this place." The first generation of children born in exile displayed unprecedented cognitive abilities. They didn't just use the Nexus technology. They internalized it, their developing brains forming neural pathways that naturally interface with the resonance. Admiral Rice watched this evolution with both wonder and strategic calculation. Humanity was changing, adapting to their new environment with remarkable speed. The exile that had been meant as a death sentence was becoming something else entirely, a transformation. The warning came 18 months after their arrival. The long-range sensors detected disturbances in the resonance field, patterns that the crystalline entities interpreted as danger. "The Voidborn have found us," Elena announced to the council. "Their scout vessels have entered the outer boundaries of the resonance field." The news spread through the growing settlements with surprising calm. The humans of Novaterra were not the same frightened refugees who had fled Earth. They had begun to understand the true nature of the resonance, and with it, the limitations of their former enemies. "The Voidborn don't understand what they've discovered," Maya Chen explained, now 20 and a leading resonance theorist. "They perceive the energy patterns but can't comprehend their significance. They see our settlements as conventional colonies, our technology as ordinary machines." Elena studied the tactical displays showing the approaching Voidborn scouts. "Can we defend ourselves?" Maya smiled, her eyes briefly flickering with geometric patterns that matched the surrounding resonance field. "Admiral, defense is an obsolete concept here. We don't need to fight them. We need to transform them." As the Voidborn scouts approached, humanity prepared not weapons, but an entirely new form of engagement. The children of Novaterra, with their naturally evolved resonance abilities, took their positions throughout the settlement network. The crystalline entities shifted into new configurations, amplifying the resonance field. The Voidborn would arrive expecting to find the remnants of a defeated species struggling to survive in exile. Instead, they would encounter something unprecedented: humanity transformed, existence reimagined, reality itself responding to human intention. The first Voidborn vessel entered visual range just as Novaterra's sun dropped below the horizon. In the gathering darkness, the crystalline spires of the settlement began to glow with inner light, pulsing in harmony with the thoughts of millions of humans now connected through the Nexus network. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. But it would not be fought with weapons or ships or conventional tactics. It would be fought with consciousness itself, with the power to reshape reality according to human will. The exile had not destroyed humanity. It had unleashed its true potential. The Ascension. Captain Vexnor of the Voidborn scout vessel, Inexorable Truth, studied the sensor readings with mounting confusion. His mission had been straightforward: locate the human refugee fleet, assess their development, and prepare for the purification armada that would follow. The humans were not supposed to have thrived. They were not supposed to have built settlements of such complexity, and they certainly were not supposed to have developed technology that the void-born sensors couldn't properly classify. "Scanning anomalies persist, Captain," reported his sensor officer. "The human structures appear to exist in fluctuating quantum states. Our targeting systems cannot establish lock." The Ascension. Captain Vexnor of the void-born scout vessel, Inexorable Truth, studied the sensor readings with mounting confusion. His mission had been straightforward: locate the human refugee fleet, assess their development, and prepare for the purification armada that would follow. The humans were not supposed to have thrived. They were not supposed to have built settlements of such complexity, and they certainly were not supposed to have developed technology that the void-born sensors couldn't properly classify. "Scanning anomalies persist, Captain," reported his sensor officer. "The human structures appear to exist in fluctuating quantum states. Our targeting systems cannot establish lock." Vexner's crystalline exoskeleton clicked with irritation. The collective had deemed humans a dangerous species, not for their current capabilities, but for their potential. Humans adapted too quickly, innovated too unpredictably. Given sufficient time, they might challenge even the Voidborn's million-year hegemony. "Deploy the probe drones," he ordered. "Full spectrum analysis." On Novaterra, Maya Chen sensed the scout ship's intentions before their drones launched. Her consciousness, linked with thousands of others through the Nexus network, expanded through the resonance field. She perceived the Voidborn vessel not as a physical object, but as a pattern of possibilities. Rigid, hierarchical, resistant to change. "They're trying to understand us using conventional methods," she communicated to the network. "Let's show them something new." When the Voidborn probes entered Novaterra's atmosphere, they encountered reality unlike anything their sensors were designed to process. The settlement appeared to simultaneously exist in multiple states, solid structures blending seamlessly with energy fields, technology merging with biology, past and future overlapping in probability cascades. Inside the Nexus chamber, Dr. Isabella Torres monitored the combined consciousness of Novaterra's inhabitants. 23 months of living within the resonance field had transformed human perception. They no longer thought in linear patterns, but in multidimensional concepts that expanded beyond conventional language. "The children are leading the response," she told Admiral Reyes, who watched from a nearby neural interface chair. "Their minds adapted more completely than ours." Across Novaterra, the first generation born in exile, now nicknamed Resonance, focused their collective consciousness on the approaching probes. They didn't seek to destroy these alien devices, they sought to transform them. On the Inexorable Truth, alarms blared as the probe transmissions became indecipherable. "The probes are being reconfigured at a quantum level," the science officer reported, his crystalline appendages trembling. "Their atomic structure is being rewritten." Vexnor watched in disbelief as the probe telemetry transformed from standard data streams into complex geometric patterns, unlike anything in Voidborn communication protocols. The patterns weren't random. They carried meaning, intention, but in a form so alien to Voidborn understanding that the ship's advanced translation systems failed completely. "Weapons status," he demanded. "Particle cannon arrays fully charged," his tactical officer responded. "Targeting systems still unable to establish lock." Vexnor hesitated only briefly. Fire. Streams of concentrated energy lanced down from the Inexorable Truth toward Novaterra's central structures. But instead of destruction, something unprecedented occurred. The energy beams slowed, their patterns visible as they entered the resonance field. Then, like water flowing into new channels, the destructive energy redirected, reshaped, repurposed. Novaterra's crystalline spires absorbed the attack, their structures glowing brighter, growing more complex. The settlement was not merely defending itself. It was using the Voidborn's own energy as a resource, a catalyst for further transformation. In the Nexus chamber, Maya Chen's physical form seemed to shimmer, her body partially translucent as her consciousness merged more deeply with the resonance field. Through her expanded perception, she could sense the confusion and fear rippling through the Voidborn crew. They're trapped in singular thinking, she communicated to the network. They cannot perceive multiple states simultaneously. Show them the paths not taken. The collective consciousness of Novaterra focused on the Voidborn ship, not to attack, but to reveal, to open the rigid minds aboard to the infinite possibilities they had never considered. Aboard the inexorable truth, reality began to fluctuate. Crew members experienced simultaneous perspectives, memories they had never formed, futures branching infinitely before them. The ship's systems, based on crystalline technology that the Voidborn had considered perfect and immutable for millennia, began to evolve, to transform, to explore configurations previously deemed impossible. Vexnur felt his consciousness expanding beyond the limitations of Voidborn perception. For the first time in his centuries-long existence, he perceived not just what was, but what could be. The sensation was terrifying and exhilarating. "Captain," his communications officer called, voice fluctuating between frequencies. "The humans are communicating." The message came not as words or data, but as pure concept. "Join us in becoming." 3 more Voidborn vessels arrived as expected, responding to the inexorable truth's distress signal. They found their sister ship transformed, its crystalline structure not damaged but evolved, complex in ways that defied Voidborn engineering principles. The crew members were alive, conscious, but fundamentally changed. They perceived reality as the humans now did, as malleable possibility rather than fixed outcome. Admiral Rice stood with Dr. Torres and Maya Chen as they observed the arrival of the main Voidborn fleet 3 months later. 87 ships, each larger than any in the original armada that had driven humanity from Earth. "They've come to finish what they started," Rice said, her voice calm despite the threat, "to ensure we pose no future challenge to their dominance." Maya smiled, her form flickering slightly as her consciousness remained partially merged with the resonance field. "They've already lost, Admiral. They just don't know it yet." The Purification Armada entered the resonance field with weapons charge, their tactics refined based on the fragmented reports from the scout vessels. But no tactical adjustment could prepare them for what they encountered. The humans had evolved beyond conventional warfare, beyond traditional existence. Through the resonance and the knowledge shared by the crystalline entities, they had learned to exist simultaneously across multiple states of reality. Their settlements were not fixed locations but possibility clouds, their technology not devices, but extensions of consciousness itself. The first wave of Voidborn attacks passed harmlessly through probability states where the human settlements did not currently manifest. The second wave of attacks was absorbed, the energy redirected to accelerate human evolution further. By the third wave, the Voidborn commanders began to realize the fundamental error in their approach. They were not fighting a refugee population. They were confronting a new form of existence. One by one, the Voidborn ships experienced the same transformation that had overtaken the inexorable truth. Their crews, exposed to the expanded consciousness made possible by the resonance field, began to perceive reality as the humans did, not as fixed and immutable, but as infinitely malleable through collective will. Some resisted, their rigid hierarchical minds unable to adapt to multidimensional thinking. Others embraced the transformation, their consciousness expanding beyond the limitations of Voidborn evolution. 6 months after the Purification Armada's arrival, the transformation was complete. The ships remained, but not as weapons platforms, as nexus points for expanded consciousness, their crystalline structures resonating with new possibilities. Admiral Rice stood with the Council of Novaterra, watching as former Voidborn Captain Vexnor addressed the combined human and transformed Voidborn population. His crystalline form had evolved, becoming more fluid, responsive to his expanded consciousness. For 1,000,000 years, the collective believed in singularity of purpose, of perception, of existence. Vexenor's voice resonated through the gathering. We feared humanity not for what it was, but for what it might become. And in forcing your exile, we created exactly what we feared most. Humanity transformed, evolved beyond conventional limitations. Maya Chen, now 23 and only partially manifesting in physical form, addressed the gathering next. Our exile was meant to be our end. Instead, it became our beginning. We have learned to exist not just in one reality, but in the spaces between all possible realities. The network of human settlements had expanded throughout the resonance region, not through conventional colonization, but through consciousness projection. Physical form had become optional, a choice rather than a requirement. The children born into this new existence perceived multiple realities simultaneously, their minds naturally interfacing with the universal consciousness that permeated all existence. We will return to known space, Admiral Rice announced, not as conquerors, but as transformers, not to seek revenge, but to offer possibility. The armada that departed the resonance region 6 years after humanity's initial exile bore little resemblance to conventional vessels. They existed in multiple states simultaneously, their forms shifting according to collective intention. Aboard them traveled a new form of consciousness. Human minds evolved beyond their original limitations, transformed voidborn, freed from rigid singularity, and the offspring of both, consciousness that had never known the constraints of conventional existence. They did not seek to rebuild what was lost. They sought to create what had never been imagined. Humanity had not merely survived their exile. They had transcended it, becoming something the universe had never before witnessed. Consciousness unleashed, reality as canvas, existence as art. The exile that had been meant as extinction had become ascension, and the stars themselves trembled with new possibility.